What's up? It's Jake. Today is Thursday. It is game one of the second round series between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals for the third consecutive year. The Penguins have won the last two, but the past means nothing. And obviously, the Capitals are as hungry as they've ever been to try to get over that hump. They definitely have that chip on their shoulder. They have people telling them, "Oh, you can't beat the Penguins." I'm sure that is a huge motivator, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Caps pull it off. But on the flip side, the Penguins definitely are hungry as well. They want to maintain their spot on the top of the mountain, and I think that when it comes to the Capitals, the Penguins just play their very best hockey whenever the Caps are involved. I don't know if that's because the rivalry has gone back so long. I don't know if it's because of the Crosby versus Ovechkin kind of nonsense or what. But it's always like the most intense hockey. When I was growing up, I think my most hated rival was always the Flyers. And a lot of people would probably agree with that. But in the last, probably since like 2007 or 8, I would say that my most hated rival for the Penguins is the Washington Capitals. They're the most consistently competitive team. In that time span, they've never not been really good. The Flyers, on the other hand, have had some really down years. They've had some. I think they were last place in the league a couple times. The Flyers are always, a rival because it's a interstate thing. They're both in Pennsylvania, and a lot of it is the chippiness. The nastiness, the dirty play, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of that stems back years. With different players and stuff who aren't even necessarily still with the team. With that being said, though, there's definitely some chippiness and some dirtiness that happens when the Pens square off against the Caps. The Pens-Caps rivalry has been a rivalry of two teams at the top of their game battling to just a cut above the other. For over a decade now, and that's something special because a lot of rivalries, especially over my lifetime, have become kind of a one-sided thing. Coming out of the East isn't as easy as it used to be. For several years, it seemed like the West was the dominant conference, and the teams in the West were the teams to watch. But now it feels like the East is that way. Especially this year. I mean, wow. The Penguins, two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. The Caps are always really, really good. Tampa Bay was, I think, the best team in the league this year. Boston was right on their heels. Toronto is a super talented up-and-comer. Granted, they were eliminated last night by Boston, but that game went to 7, or that series went to 7, and that's the only series in all of the playoffs this year so far that has gone to 7 games. Out west, you have a couple of teams that got swept. The other series that weren't sweeps weren't particularly close. Basically, it's just there's a couple of strong teams in the West, but there's also a couple of teams that really probably weren't up to par that made the playoffs and showed why they weren't up to par. So it's going to be, there's a lot of teams that used to have rivalries, like I said, that nowadays it's sort of a little lopsided. Chicago and Detroit's another one. Chicago and Detroit used to have a huge rivalry, but then they split them up, and now they're not in the same conference, and that's been an issue for their rivalry. They don't play as much anymore, and when they do, the games don't mean as much. So, the teams that have played the hardest against each other and have made the most successful runs into the postseason and stuff have been the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I think right now that's probably the best rivalry in hockey, and it's one of the best rivalries in sports. And so I'm really excited to see the game tonight. I'm excited to see what happens. It's in Washington, but I think Pittsburgh can go in there and take the first one. Malkin's not playing, Hagelin's not playing. That's a bummer, but it should still be a great series. And the Penguins have a lot of depth, so we'll see what happens. But really looking forward to it. Go Pens.